Welcome to episode number 9 of the Upshot Interview Series. Josh Mansfield, Charlie Eisenhood with you. And today we're going to be talking with Steve Dodge. Well, Steve's been on here many times before. If you're a longtime listener, you'll know Steve well. And he's not only the founder of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, he also runs the Maple Hill Disc Golf Course in Massachusetts that hosts the MVP Open, and is just an all-around eccentric, fascinating disc golf personality who has just poured his blood, sweat, and tears into the game for 2 decades. And it's going to be a real pleasure to have him on.
It really was. I keep saying this, but the interviews are just fantastic, and this one with Steve was no exception by any means. It really feels like Steve has his hand in a little bit of everything, and that is true even though he's not a part formally of the Pro Tour. And so it's just nice to hear and talk to him a little bit about some of his adventures and innovations in the sport.
We're, of course, going to talk about the MVP Open, all the news there, the new $2 million 10-year sponsorship with MVP, and the $1 million Ace Run Challenge that will be happening this year, and a whole lot more about Steve and, you know, passing on from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and just a really interesting interview. Also on his philosophies on course design and how to try to continue to improve what is currently the back-to-back reigning #1 disc golf course in the world per UDisc. So lots more to come with Steve Dodge right after this. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And you know what? They make more than just disc golf bags. Check out their new Fly Pack. You can find it on the website, pounddiscgolf.com. It is the maximum carry-on size travel pack that you've been looking for. Backpack straps, or you can take those off and convert it into a duffel. It's got room for a laptop, a tablet, your clothes, your stuff, and you know what? Some disc golf discs, because obviously you're going to bring some on vacation. $299.99, and it's just a beautiful bag. You got to check it out. It's available in multiple colorways. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to check out the Fly Pack so that you can travel in style. Joining us now here on the Upshot Interview Series is a long-time guest, multi-time guest here on the Upshot. It is the tournament director of the MVP Open at Maple Hill, also runs the course at Maple Hill, also the founder of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Steve Dodge. Steve, welcome back.
Thank you, Charlie. Long time, third time.
Long time, third time. It feels like more than 3 times, but maybe that's just because I talk to you more often than that. But you know what? 3-time guest on Upshot, like, there's not that many 3-time guests, Steve. So it does make you a significant multi-time guest.
As long as I'm special.
That's right. Well, so first of all, welcome. I'm really curious to hear from you just off the top. How have you experienced the growth of disc golf? Because you passed off the Pro Tour right around the time things really started to boom in a major way, in 2020. So how have you experienced that, whether that be at Maple Hill or just in preparing for the MVP Open, et cetera?
Well, let's start with the pass off. First of all, as I'm sure you both know, and maybe most of your listeners already know, Jeff Spring and crew are much more organized and more financially backed than I could ever possibly be. The handoff, bearing in mind COVID, happened at an ideal time. I believe that they were well positioned to take advantage of the growth. The growth would have, if I had still been in charge of the Pro Tour, the Pro Tour would have continued, but we wouldn't have continued the way that we did. So the universe has this energy that makes things just work out. And so regarding COVID and the changeover, the timing worked out perfect. Thank goodness that they are in charge. because they are killing it. And the biggest way it's affected me is I have more time to sit back and watch how good a job they're doing. I'm loving watching this. I mean, seeing Gannon Burr and Drew Gibson go down to the wire, seeing Katrina Allen and Paige Pierce have a Worlds 2.0 at LVC. It was so much fun to watch. And I've always wanted to watch disc golf live, and now I'm able to sit back and enjoy it. Maple Hill has been recognized as a premier course over the last few years. We have people from all over the world, literally people from all over the world coming by the course. I had a guy come last year that brought me I think he was from Norway, and he brought me a disc that was signed by everybody in his club, and he was thrilled that I happened to be there, and he presented it literally to me, and I just took a disc off a nail and hung his disc up, and it's like people are just making my day every day. So as far as the boom in disc golf, Maple Hill is doing fantastic. We actually have 2 full-time employees now. We're hiring 2 more part-time employees this year, hoping to bring 1 or 2 of them on full-time next year. The MVP Open continues to grow, and I get to sit back and have more time with my new wife to watch disc golf.
Well, congratulations, Steve. It sounds like you're living the disc golf dream then. So tell us a little bit about the deal. I know this is, especially with some of the news that came out this week, a little bit older, but I still want to cover that. 10 years, $2 million as the title sponsor. One thing that we talked about on the show, for the first few years especially, that seems like an incredible deal. But over the long term, are there any sort of contract terms that allow you to renegotiate that if the price of the MVP Open title sponsorship goes up over the next 10 years?
Absolutely. First of all, Josh, nice to meet you.
Likewise. We haven't talked a lot about you, listened to a lot of shows with you, but I think this is my first time getting to talk with you on the pod. So
yeah,
it's nice to meet you as well, Steve.
I've listened to you so long, it feels like we're friends. And so this is great to finally meet you. But regarding the contract, 10 years, $2 million, what that sounds like is $200,000 a year. If the tournament was getting $200,000 this year, I would be making good bank. And if the tournament was making $200,000 in year 10, I would be I would be a fool. So in all likelihood, and neither of those is true. What in fact is happening, basically the first half of the contract is worth about 1/3 of the deal, and the back half is worth about 2/3 of the deal. And halfway through, we are going to do a friendly renegotiation based on how disc golf grows. So there's an opportunity for this to be a $3 million, $4 million, $5 million deal based on how the sport continues to grow. We all know that it will continue to grow. We just don't know the rate. So setting up a 10-year deal without any kind of reevaluation wouldn't be in either of our interests, because we both want to make sure we're both happy. So that's the way it's set up. This first year we're looking at I'll say very low 6 figures.
Got it. And how does that compare to the magnitude of your title sponsorship offerings in the past?
It's significantly larger. We're at least 50%, if not double what we were last year. MVP, I have a great relationship with Steve Holloway at MVP and the whole MVP crew. And that, first of all, I got to say that they flew me out to Marlette, and James and crew who do all the video there at MVP killed it. And I remember the days when Joe Canale, who does Bluefoot Media and actually does a lot of stuff still with DGN. He flew out to the Memorial in 2016, and we did a whole bunch of interviews, and we set up this hotel. We had a hotel room, and we just made it look like a studio, and we brought as many people in as we could, and we had, from my perspective, relatively professional interviews and all this jazz. And Joe did that for the price of a plane ticket. And now we have people with those skills who are getting paid to do it in disc golf. And it's really fun to watch people like James at MVP and everybody else there on the video team, and how amazing a job they do. And they're actually in disc golf getting paid by disc golf to do disc golf work. And that is a significant shift. And we're going to see, disc golf is going to see a boom because of that, because we have such talented people in the sport now getting paid by the sport to do something they love. So I have no idea what the question was at this point.
I think it was just about the magnitude of the original of past year sponsorships.
I went off on a little tangent. Sorry about that.
It's great though.
The magnitude of past. I'll go ahead and say we did have another suitor step in, and that wanted to sponsor the event. And I was very upfront and open with both companies. And I told MVP, I'm going to take this offer, and if you guys match the offer, we'll stay with MVP. I got the offer in, and MVP said we want to beat the offer, and they beat it by a good amount. So
who was the other suitor?
I'd rather not say that. If they want to come out and say that, that's fine. But I'm not going to say that.
Were they in disc golf, or were they an outside sponsor?
I'm just gonna say there was another suitor.
All right.
Not even gonna say if it was a boy or a girl.
So you mentioned just a moment ago that you recently got married. I know I had seen that on social media that you'd gotten engaged. I did not know that you got married. So congratulations. Can you tell us a little bit more about your wife and kind of how this, because it seemed like you got engaged and then you got married pretty quickly thereafter. So what does that mean for your life and your future?
Well, her name is Jessie Lynn Dodge, and we met right at the beginning of COVID, and it was really interesting because we really couldn't go out, and so I would go to her place and she would come to my place, and we would sit on the couch and watch shows and eat popcorn and eat ice cream. We both love popcorn, ice cream, and movies, so life is pretty good. Right now, we're living in her place. She lives about 40 miles away from Maple Hill. And we're renovating my house at Maple Hill, and we'll be moving in probably in the next month or two. And I'll be living on the property again with my wife, and a very a booming disc golf industry to fill my sails.
So the real question then is, does your wife play disc golf?
As a matter of fact, she had never heard of the sport, and it's always entertaining to tell someone what you do. And yeah, I think I actually presented myself as a board game designer. So it was something that people understand. But she does now play occasionally, and I will go ahead and brag on her behalf. The last time we went out and played, there's a par 2 in Fredericksburg at the I think it's called Six Goats and a Bear. And that's the brewery that we go to. And they have a little par 2 course out back. And she got an ace on the 5th hole. And it was pretty darn fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so speaking of aces then, we got to talk about your new $1 million ace run challenge that's going to be coming up in Maple Hill. 8 women, 8 men are going to have the opportunity to throw 4 shots at either 600 feet or 450 feet for the men and for the women, down hole 1 at Maple Hill. And if they hit the ace, they win $1 million. So that's obviously, this is like a, halftime show at an NBA game kind of deal. The question I have is like, who's more likely to make a shot like that? Like some random Joe out of the crowd at an NBA game shooting a half court shot, or a professional, like elite professional player trying to throw it in from 600 feet on a downhill shot. I mean, it's tough, but with 4 tries, I mean, people are going to come close, Steve. It could happen.
Yes, it really could happen. Not only could it happen, but it could happen all 3 nights. It could happen Thursday. It could happen Friday. And in this interview, I want to give you guys a little exclusive also. It could happen Saturday. We're doing it 3 nights. $3 million could be won.
So what's happening on Saturday?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, first of all, I need to give a little shout out to Josh. Because sometime I was listening to the podcast, I think it was sometime last year, and Josh said these events need to come up with things to do, things that draw in crowds on the first days, Thursday and Friday. And I'm expanding that to Saturday also. But things that will get these people to come to the earlier days. So if you want to come on Thursday, watch the women take their shot. You come on Friday, you watch the men take their shot. On Saturday, we're taking the 4 closest women and the 4 closest men, and they all get to try again on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have 32 more shots on Saturday, and they'll be from the people that got the closest on Thursday and Friday.
How long are the shots across the water at USDGC? Because they have all those baskets set up, and they have those big shots across the water, and everyone's trying to like make one into the basket, and you really don't see it. Like sometimes people get close. I think I've seen metal hit a couple times. Maybe at some point when I was not at the tournament, it's actually one has gone in. But it feels like a similar magnitude, like 600-ish feet. I mean, that sounds plausible that's the distance. So I'll be very interested to see if people can come close, because it's hard to control a disc that far. But obviously, for $1 million,
it should be hard.
It should be hard.
How far is the water carry on hole 1 at Maple Hill?
I think it's about 480. So the basket's actually going to be past the water, so it's actually going to be a little bit longer than 450 for the women.
Okay,
got it. Well, that's going to be exciting. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, and it's about a 15, 20, 25 foot drop in elevation. So if we want to factor that in.
Now, I know you're not putting your own money up for this. Surely you have an insurance company who specializes in this kind of thing. How much does the insurance run you for a $1 million disc golf shot challenge?
So before I tell you that, I need to give a shout out to Mike Calzone of Foy Insurance. Last year, he's a good friend, and last year he's the first person that I pitched the tailgating sponsorship to. I don't know if you remember the tailgating on hole 18 that we had. And I said, Mike, I need somebody to buy into this so that I can tell the next person that we've already sold one. And he said, sure, Steve, whatever. And it turned out to be a hit, and everybody that did it wants to come back, and we're expanding. We got 2 more people this year, so we'll have a total of 10. And but so a shout out to Mike Calzone of Foy Insurance. He's the guy that figured out how to make all this work insurance wise. And it's basically a little over $5,000 a day for the insurance to make this hit. So if somebody hits this, I'm going to be as excited as everybody else. I didn't just lose $1 million. I've already lost my $15,000, and I want to give $1 million to somebody.
I mean, Mike's not going to be happy. Although they probably have reinsurance on this.
Correct.
So it's, somebody's paying, but it's up the chain. No one's even going to know who it is. That would be something else. Certainly be fun to watch. And I actually want to get into this a little bit because MVP Open has a reputation for kind of having like this more an atmosphere around the tournament that I think a lot of disc golf tournaments really don't have. So how has that developed over time? And, what are some of the things that we can expect to see this year or even in future years that you're kind of planning to do at some point?
So it's funny because I happen to have a disc right here from the 2006 MSDGC. And I've got to give a nod out to Jason Southwick, Kelly Southwick, Tom Southwick, Joe Lick Me Proud, rest in peace, who all helped start the MSDGC, from which the Vibram Open and the MVP Open blossomed. But the MSDGC was, I almost think it was first and foremost a party more than a tournament, although we went out of our way to make it a heck of a tournament also. But having a great time, all encompassed on the one farm, has always been what we do. It's a family farm. I think there's something very magical about this land. Everybody shows up here and you're instantly a part of the family. So I think that's what makes that we have a very special piece of the world. And so I took that that idea of having fun, and we've expanded it into the idea of having all these extra little competitions. This year, again, thanks to Josh, I wanted to kick it up to the next level, and I wanted this, and I'm being legit, Josh, this all came from you. You got me thinking. And I wanted to just kick it up to the next level and say, if I was a spectator, what would make me say, holy cow, I have to be there? We're putting in new bleachers on hole 1 that are going to seat over 200 people, plus all the people lining the fairway, plus anybody that wants to sit behind the basket 600 feet away. There's going to be a lot of people on hole 1 hooting and hollering to watch these discs come really close to those baskets. And I'm very, very excited.
Well, Steve, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I do have some spectator questions then. What do you anticipate? Are there going to be separate spectator tickets for this event? Is that going to be just for general admission on Thursday? How many tickets do you have available? Do you have price ideas? Just kind of some details of what you're going to fit in there.
As a matter of fact, 2 days ago on Monday at 8 a.m., tickets went on sale. So you could actually go and see them right now. Tickets range from $15 to $50 or $300 if you want to get the weekend pass, the VIP weekend pass. But the hole-in-one contest is open to anybody with a ticket. You have to have a ticket and you have to have a lanyard. But if you come to watch the tournament, you can come watch that hole-in-one shot, the $1 million shot. Things were also expanding for this year. We had a buffet last year that was a big hit. And we had an ice cream social that was a big hit. We're going to do both of those things Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. So every night we're going to have the buffet. We're going to have the ice cream social. We're having an expanded tailgating area. We're already working on better signage so that the crowds always go with traffic, if you will. So on hole 1, there won't be anybody walking up the hole. Like spectators are going to be directed around so that they come up hole 2 or come up hole 18. There's nobody walking up hole 1. They're only walking down. So we're improving the flow. We're improving the signage. Interestingly enough, while it feels like that maybe restricts access, it actually gives you more access to the players. So spectators will have more access to the players. They'll have more regulated travel. We're going to have expanded bleachers on hole 8. I'm hoping to get 200 or 300 seats out there and those on that hill behind the basket. We're going to have bleachers and a stage on hole 1. We're improving the parking. We're doing a lot to make sure that when tournament time comes, we are ready and people are going to have a great time. Last year I had no idea what was going to happen. This year we've got a little traction and we know what we're doing.
How many spectators did you have last year?
So last year we had 700 spectators plus the tailgaters, so about 750 total. And then we had about 100 to 150 staff and then a couple hundred players. So a little over 1,000 people total.
Did it feel like it could accommodate that?
Yes, for sure. And with expanded bleachers, I feel like we're going to be able to accommodate maybe about double that amount. And my goal this year is to, just like last year, assess, okay, how did we do? Where do we need more bleachers? Can we double that number again?
You also have an interesting thing that you started a couple of years ago that was a little bit controversial, but then proven to be smart and worked out well, which was selling. You have to pay to volunteer. It was $99. And you got a bunch of stuff. Not only did you get to be there up close and personal with the pros, but you got, discs and food and t-shirt, etc. How has that program continued to work well for you over the last couple of years?
So I will say that program came in at $99, and today, even with all the inflation going on, it is still $99. So
think about how much it's only like 25% cheaper in purchasing power pricing.
It is the best deal in disc golf. So, and just so you know, we don't say volunteer anymore. We say staff. And so people are paying $99 to be on staff. They get a staff pack. They have to work at least 3 days, including setup and breakdown. So we have about an 8 or 9 day window for people to come and work. They get a staff pack that's worth well over 100, arguably 150 to 200, depending how you view a James Conrad Envy. So like some people had, 2 years ago, they had Envies in there, and James Conrad signed some. So, but and they're signed by the winners. They get a disc signed by the winners. They get the staff pack. On the days that they're not, in times that they're not working, they're able to go out and watch anything they want to watch. They basically have a VIP pass, and they get breakfast, lunch, and a buffet dinner every day. So, and a clean shirt every morning. So we make sure to treat the staff right. They are the reason that the tournament works. There's going to be 1,000 spectators there, and they need to know where to go, and that's what the staff do.
Any other exciting announcements for MVP or changes that you're anticipating coming up for this tournament? I mean, I feel like we've talked about so many, but I'm sure you've got others up your sleeve that you're just waiting to share.
We are getting all new baskets, courtesy of MVP, as part of this sponsorship. So Maple Hill will have all new baskets. All the baskets that are currently at Maple Hill are going to be auctioned off to people probably towards the end of April once the ground fully thaws. But I'm really excited about the new baskets. I've never seen a basket that catches this well, and everybody always says that. And this time it is again true. They have 4 unique rings. They have 4 levels of chains. I think it has, I think I counted, and it has 742 chains on it. I'm joking about that. I think it's about 40. But there's 4 rings, and each level of chains goes to a separate ring, so it accepts the disc and doesn't throw it back out. And yeah, the baskets are amazing. So we have all new baskets, which I'm excited about. We're getting a new tee on hole 12 for the diamond course. That hole was a little too long for the women, and so we shortened up that tee, and actually it works well for the white course as well. That's going to be a diamond white tee going to separate baskets. But so besides the new baskets and hole 12 diamond and all the stuff mentioned before, I can't think of anything right now that is going to change, but I guarantee there'll be something.
What do you think about being a playoff event? That's going to be something different this year. Obviously, the tournament will carry more weight in the Pro Tour standings. 1.25x multiplier on the points, but it also means that you're going to have a reduced field, and so it's a little bit more of an exclusive event. There's been some gnashing of teeth about this from regional players. I'm sure you've seen that as somebody who's deep in the Northeast and Massachusetts scene. So what do you think about being this kind of last stop before the Pro Tour Championship and the exclusivity that this event will, as a result, have?
I'm very, very proud that the DGPT was willing to select the MVP Open to be a playoff event. I don't think that would just happen to any event. So I'm very proud, and we are going to do everything we can to make the Pro Tour proud and say, hey, we should go back there again and do that again. Regarding the players that don't have an opportunity to play the MVP Open this year, I understand the feelings that they have. It's a really special event. It's very fun to play. Regional players have always loved coming to this event and playing against the best in the world. We do have 4 qualifier events, 3 on the pro side, 1 on the am side. So 4 to 8 lucky people on the men and women's side will be able to get in, but it's nothing like the 30 to 50 that used to get in. So I fully understand that, and I guess all I can say is progress is not always comfortable. But the sport is advancing, and this is where we're going now. So I remember back when in the MSDGC days, I got rid of MP40 pretty early on, and I said, if you're MP40, you should be playing MPO, and I kept MP50 because I felt like 50 and up, yeah, you start to get a little sore. And now that I'm over 50, I understand you actually do start to get sore.
Stokely trying to prove the haters wrong.
I love that. I think that's really important. But when I cut MP40, I got some flack. And then later when I cut MP50, I got some slack. and some flack, not slack, a little bit of slack, but not more flack than slack. And you, all you can do is explain, this is where we're headed. The goal of this is to be MPO and FPO. We want to showcase just the top players in the world, and being a playoff event, as you said, makes it a smaller club, makes it more elite. It actually makes it easier on the staff because we can spread out tee times. There'll be less backups. The overall workday will be shorter, and the overall entertainment will be bigger. So it's the best of every world, in my opinion, with the small exception. I shouldn't say small because that belittles it. With the exception of the players that won't have an opportunity to play the regional.
So shifting gears a little bit, my wife and I love to play Birdie on our weekends. It's one of our favorite board games. What are Boda Brothers up to? Is there anything else in the works there, or expansion packs?
Thank you very much for asking. We are currently working on 2 original games. One is a disc golf game, and one is I'll just say flat out not a disc golf game. And then we have 2 outside developers who have come to us and said, "Hey, can Boda Brothers help us make their games?" So, I don't know, they're not quite there yet. So I don't want to get into that, but we're working with them to help finalize these projects, and I'm very excited for what Boda Brothers will be bringing to the table. As far as expansion packs, I'll say it would be really cool if both playoff events in the DGPT had courses in Birdie. So I think Maple Hill already does have a course in Birdie, so we would just need to do whatever the other playoff event is. And last thing I'll say about Boda Brothers is thank you to everybody that's bought the game and plays the game. I agree with you. It is super fun. It's really nice playing that nice card on somebody right as they're rolling their dice. We've sold over 7,500 copies of the game, which exceeds what I thought we would do by about 7,400. And we recently found 48 of the original games, and my brother was like, "Well, let's put them on the site." So we have 47 of the original games left, and we're selling them for, I don't know what it is. So it's like $98 or $100, and that's the only place you can get the original Paul Macbeth and Simon Lizotte cards that came with the original game. And thank you to everybody who helped the original game happen, because that's why Boda Brothers exists and why my brother and I get to make games as a side job.
That's awesome. So Maple Hill is, for the second year in a row, #1 ranked course in the world per UDisc. And I think Maple Hill's long been considered the best course in the United States. How do you maintain this elite ranking? Because we're about to see, I think, a boom in disc golf course development on private land where people can really design things to their mind's eye. You know, we've already seen Eagles Crossing popping up and getting a lot of praise. Maybe you don't care about this, having that #1 ranking, but you know, you've obviously added tees over time, you've added layouts over time, continuing to tinker. But you know, at some point, when you've already got 4 layouts, basically, I don't know how much more you can really do on that front. So what do you do to keep Maple Hill atop the list, if that's something that is meaningful to you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that views Maple Hill in the same way that I do, and the same way that our whole team does. It's, as I said earlier, it's a very special place. I feel like this land is genuinely magical. We're a half mile away from Worcester, the second largest city in New England, and when you're there, it's a disc golf only venue. When you're there, you're in the woods. A lot of times you can't see or hear anybody else, and it feels like you are just getting this experience all to yourself, which when you're playing, you kind of are, but there's 80 other people all around you. And we're very, very lucky to have the piece of land that Maple Hill is on. how do we maintain being number one? I have no idea. There are so many amazing venues being developed. To be honest, I was shocked we're still number one. I think that there might be a little too much weight on history, because when I look at places like Eagles Crossing and the Prince Edward Island course, and I haven't been to any of the courses in Europe yet, but I expect they're phenomenal. I think there's a large tip of the hat to Maple Hill because of the history that we have. And that's actually one of the things we're going to be working on this year, is saying thank you for the last 20 years. And we're going to be putting little markers down where special shots have happened, and commemorating the history of Maple Hill. That's one of the things that'll be happening over the next year or two. But how do we stay number one? I have no idea. I assumed we would not be number one this year. They don't tell us. They told me, I knew I was going to be in the top 10. But beyond that, we didn't know where Maple Hill would be. And I'm tickled pink that if I had won a world championship in 1982 in disc golf, like, hey, I'm a world champion. And in 20 years, being able to say that Maple Hill was number one in the world at some point is going to be a very big honor. It's a big honor now, but I don't see any way that we can maintain this. There's so many good courses coming. So we're going to be happy while we're here and invite everybody to come and enjoy the beauty and magic that is the land of Maple Hill.
So you were describing those markers to celebrate the history of special shots. Do you have any in mind that for you have a particular shot that was particularly memorable or special from your time up there?
You want me to just pick one? That's funny. There's basically every year, there's 1 or 5 shots that stand out in our minds. And the really nice thing is, back in 2004, we started making DVDs of the event. So we have a history of all of these shots. And what these markers are actually going to be is QR codes. And you'll scan them, and then they'll go to a page commemorating that shot, and you can actually watch the shot. The first one that we're putting down is commemorates Ron Russell's shot on hole 18 in 2004. He was one ahead of Steve Brinster going onto the hole, and his drive went OB. And the funny thing is, we're driving from the white tee, which back then seemed gargantuan. So it's a little comical, but he drove OB and had probably about 200 feet to the green, and then he had to take that right turn onto the island green, and he put up a comet, and it just went just like a comet does. It went straight up 200 feet and then just took a hard right and went onto the green, landed about 2 feet from the pin, and dozens of people went crazy because that's how many people were there, and that was a magical shot for me. And then Steve Brinster ended up pushing him into a playoff, and Ron Russell won in the playoff. But that shot sort of cemented his ability to get to that playoff, and I'll say that was the first. That was kind of the moment when I said, holy cow, this is so much fun to watch. And it kind of cemented the idea that watching disc golf is, in some ways it's more fun, in some ways it's just as much fun as playing disc golf.
I'm curious to know, when you see a tournament like Las Vegas Challenge, where the layout is the same for MPO and FPO, what do you think about that?
Wow. I should put my political hat on and say, everybody should do what they want to do. But
we know you're not going to do that, Steve. That's why I asked the question.
First of all, I love Jeff Jacquart and the crew at LVC. They do an amazing job. I believe that MPO and FPO are different divisions. They have different abilities as far as distance goes, and I think that the course should be designed for that. When I watch when I break down what an MPO player is being asked to do on a disc golf course. In general, they have their max drive maybe 4 times in a round, and they're doing their fairway drive maybe 10 times, and they're doing an approach putt drive maybe 4 times. And when you have the women play the same course, you're basically saying, I want you to do a max drive 14 times and a fairway drive or a mid-range 4 times, which is asking them to do a completely different skill set off the tee than the men. And in my opinion, that does them a disservice. They have all of the skills. They have all of the skills that the men have, and we're overemphasizing the distance skill. If we think the distance skill is that important, then we should make the men throw another 300 to 400 feet on every hole, and then that would be fair. So, in my opinion, we're overemphasizing distance when we have the women play from the men's tees.
So a follow-up to that then, in course development, and because as the sport grows and continues and the players become better than, as you said, back then the white tees seemed insane in 2004, and now it would be comical for MPO to play that layout. So as you're developing courses and trying to modify courses to adapt to the top level pros, no matter what you do, you're going to favor a particular skill set. If you make greens more obstructed, you reward versatile putters. If you stretch courses, you make them long and make them longer, you reward distance, and you favor, the farthest throwers. If you do more island shots, then you're rewarding those who have the cleanest upshot game. So regardless of what you do, you're going to favor people with certain skill sets. How do you, as an individual course designer, manage that preference? Do you just say, I prefer that putting is rewarded, I think that's what's important? Or do you think there's a way to go about this in a more holistic and fair sense?
Well, the first thing at Maple Hill we're going to do is we're going to look at our land, and we're going to say we have a lot of elevation, we have a lot of prevailing winds, we have a lot of water. Well, Maple Hill seems to have a lot of everything, but we're going to do the best we can with what we have. I love this question, and I love thinking about disc golf holistically. And I'm a tennis fan, or I used to be. I haven't watched tennis in a long time, but I used to be a tennis fan. And I love the fact that they play on clay and grass and hard court. And to win all of the majors is insanely hard because they're very different beasts. And I love disc golf for the exact same reason. Someone winning LVC, Drew Gibson wins LVC. If he comes out and wins Maple Hill and Idlewild, that is a very impressive thing to do. They're very different courses. I'm getting goosebumps. Disc golf is so magical because it is played on ball golf courses where distance is emphasized, and it is played at Idlewild where accuracy is emphasized, and it is played at Maple Hill where it is the perfect course and everything is emphasized. But so disc golf is, in my opinion, it's great that we have all these different courses all around the country. I think the Southeast is underrepresented. I'd love to see more disc golf, more professional disc golf in Florida, and I'm glad to see Jacksonville on the wraparound tour, which I'm crazy excited is coming next year. So yeah, I love that our sport gets to play in all these different regions, and all of the skills are emphasized at different times of the season.
Sure, makes a lot of sense, and we talk about the different phases of the tour and how different skills are required in different parts of the country, often because of geography. So, final thoughts here, Steve. I was also curious to get your thoughts on kind of like what's. I'm always interested to talk to you because you have been an innovator in disc golf in a lot of ways. You wanted to make this crazy course. You obviously started the Disc Golf Pro Tour. You created a board game. Like, you've done a bunch of things, and you've pushed even years and years ago. For people that don't know the history, you were pushing for a something that resembled the Disc Golf Pro Tour, back in the early 2000s, at a time when maybe it was a little bit ahead of its time. in a way, you might even argue that when you started the Disc Golf Pro Tour, it was slightly ahead of its time, just slightly. So do you feel like there's another big innovation that needs to come to disc golf, whether that be from you or from somebody else, that's something that you've envisioned as like, oh, this is a thing that we need that we do not have?
In the sport of disc golf, no. In not that I can think of. In the coverage of disc golf, yes. I think DGN and the Disc Golf Pro Tour are doing a fantastic job of setting. I believe that 2022 is going to. I thought 2021, but now I think 2022 is going to be the first year of modern disc golf. The two things that are coming down the pipe that we are. It's so nascent, we don't know how to do it quite yet, but I'm confident that the Pro Tour will be able to figure this out. The first thing is the Disc Golf Pro, the Tour card. I've heard you guys talk extensively on, okay, how do I get on the Tour card? Like, I'm not on the Tour now, and it's really hard to get enough points to get in because people who are in can play, and it seems odd. And will there be relegation? Like the bottom 5 guys get bumped out and the top 5 guys from Silver Series get bumped on? And we don't have any idea how that's going to develop. We have ideas how it's going to be implemented next year, but in 5 years, it's going to be very different. And so as that develops, I think that the Tour card is the first of the two things that I think are going to make 2022 the first year of modern disc golf. The other thing is, as I mentioned just a second ago, is the wraparound season. As soon as USDGC is done, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks later, we're going out to Lake Marshall, and then they're going to Jacksonville. And I feel like there were even a couple of other events. And that's the first steps towards a true wraparound season. There's not going to be a November to February no live disc golf. And that is the other half of where disc golf is going. These are the things that I'm excited to see. As far as new innovations, no, the sponsors are going to get bigger and bigger. The spectators are going to get more and more. The courses are going to get more and more pristine. When we started Maple Hill, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get rid of all of the ticks and all of the thorns and all of the yucky rough that would cause my mom to not play. And that is where disc golf is going. If you like those things, you'll still be able to find a park course that has ticks and thorns and rough.
Personally, that's what I go for. I like to get just brutalized by the ticks.
That will always exist. As the sport grows and our pyramid gets bigger, we'll continue to have courses that are maybe lackluster. But we'll have more and more great courses. And what that means is there will be room for everything in between. When I was picking a college, my dad said, you pick a big school. You can make a big school as small as you want. You can have 15 friends. But if you go to a small school, you can't make it as big as you want. And I think it's really fun watching disc golf grow and get to the point where it can be inclusive for everybody. You can go to the Eagles landing course and pay however much you have to pay to play around on this amazing course, or you can go to your city park course and play a 9-hole course that has maybe Mach 2s on it that are outdated. Both sides work. It's all fine. And I love the Mach 2, by the way. It's the first set of baskets that I ever purchased. So, it's the one that came to mind. But if you put them on a modern course, people would just laugh. So it's a fantastic practice basket, though.
Do you think disc golf's ready for PGA Tour professionalism in the sense of tour card and, wraparound season? Do we need to have year-round disc golf at this point?
Well, were we ready for a Disc Golf Pro Tour in 2016? You have to start somewhere. And as it says on my Facebook page, you can't fail if you don't try. So I think that this is the perfect time to start this process. And I believe looking back, 2022 will be the year that we say is the start of modern disc golf.
All right, I have
so
one
the answer
more.
to that, Charlie, is 1 to 3 years is really when it should happen.
Last thing here, you were a real proponent of having live coverage available for all events. And, there was sort of like an early disc golf network that, became a bigger thing when Jeff Spring and company took over. Obviously, we've now seen that expand to many more cameras, a much larger production team. And I think, you're seeing in the coverage, the evidence of the improved infrastructure that they've created, making it easier than ever to sit and watch live disc golf. It is interesting to me to watch at least from a sort of engaged fan side, which is like our podcast is for engaged fans. I think people who are listening to the Upshot generally are people who are paying a lot of attention to what's going on in the sport and are, probably more likely than the average person who likes disc golf to watch on live coverage. But it's feeling more and more that the live coverage is kind of the nexus of where people are watching. Like, people are talking about immediately following the tournament what happened. They're not waiting a day to see it happen on post-production anymore. Obviously, there's still plenty of casual fans and just, sort of non super engaged disc golf fans that maybe just watch it on Jomez. But you have this, the size of the audience, of course, is continuing to grow, and the conversation is starting to rotate around what we just saw. We just watched it happen on live coverage, and it's starting to feel like that's where the conversation is, as opposed to kind of everybody waiting to see what happened and then being like, oh, look at the shots that we got to see on post-production. Where do you feel like we are in that spectrum from where we were a few years ago, which is that live coverage was really only for like a very small sliver of people, and it was often, it was choppy at times, and the coverage was, you had to really want to watch it because you're going to watch a lot of people walking down fairways. And then we kind of are swinging towards where other pro sports are, which is that they're almost entirely watched live. And most people, if they care about a tournament, are going to at least tune in for the Sunday live round, even if it's just for the back nine. But that's what you see literally in every other sport. So we're kind of in the transition phase here. Where do you think we are, and how much further do we end up going towards live consumption as the primary mode of watching disc golf?
I have no crystal ball. I have a small amount of insight, but I don't have any way to actually know the answer to your question. I am a proponent of live. I also love the work that Jomez and Central Coast and Gatekeeper and GK Pro are doing. They are growing the audience to the casual fans. They are, in my opinion, critical for the long-term growth of live, because they bring the fans in, and then the fans say, oh, wow, look, the World Championship is going on. I'll tune in and I'll watch that. So they're creating that live viewer. So both are critical. I would look at where golf is and say that's where we're headed, where people watch the majors, and then the more in tune people watch all of the other events that I guess are on Golf Network or wherever they go. Where are we? I would guess it's really interesting because all the contracts that just got signed are 2 years long, and the PDGA has given given DGN the rights for 5 years, and that would be my guess. 2 to 5 years, we're looking at a significant shift, where most of the people are watching live, in my opinion, and less than half are watching the post-produced stuff.
All right, Steve. Well, this is always a fascinating conversation, and we appreciate you taking some time with us here. And as you make the rounds through the podcasts and really get the word out there about this year's MVP Open, I'm excited to see what happens. If you had to, the one thing we didn't ask you about the $1 million shots last thing.
Yeah.
How are you picking the 8 players to
take
the shots?
So on Thursday and Friday, the top 6 women in there's a new UDisc stat that's being developed. They haven't released it yet. They're making sure it passes the smell test and fits correctly. But it's a distance accuracy statistic that they're developing. And we're going to take the top 6 people in that statistic plus 2 fan votes. So if you're on site, you're going to get to vote. Actually, I don't even know how we're going to do the fan vote. I don't want to say it's going to be on site. So 6 will be from that stat, 2 will be a fan vote, and then the same with the men on Friday. And then Saturday, it's going to be the 4 CTPs from Thursday and Friday.
If someone hits it on Thursday or Friday, does that mean they also get to compete on Saturday?
That's a great point. Someone could win $2 million. Yeah, which would be great.
That would be wild. Josh, over under $0.5 million ace runs.
Over.
Over. All right.
I've taken the over because of how bad I want that to happen.
All day over. Yes.
All right, Steve. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and looking forward to coming back up to MVP, to Maple Hill. MVP getting their money's worth already with the new 10-year contract. And I still haven't played around up there, so I got to change that soon.
I need to give one more shout out.
Okay, please do.
I apologize. We've talked a lot about Maple Hill and the improvements of the course and all that jazz. This is the first year we've ever had like a cohesive schedule. Like Monday nights, we're having, if you want to get lessons, we're doing lessons on Monday nights, up to 15 people at a time. On Tuesday nights, we have our league is back in action now that we're kind of through COVID. On Wednesdays, women play free on Wednesdays. Use coupon code MHWomen when you're making your tee time, and you get to play for free on Wednesdays. And then we also have our first Friday's Cosmic Disc Golf League, which is a monthly. So the first Friday of every month from April to October, we're having a monthly. It's an 8 monthly series, and the winners of the series get memberships to Maple Hill. I would have been remiss if I hadn't mentioned all of those wonderful things. Thanks for letting me squeeze them in here at the end. You guys are killing it this year. Your interviews are fantastic. You let the guests shine. I love the work that you guys do. Keep doing it and keep killing it and keep making disc golf great.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Steve Dodge, purveyor of the Maple Hill Disc Golf Course in Massachusetts and the TD for the MVP Open. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Good night.